Okay, hopefully you did the cause and effect commentary workshop. I'm going to go a little bit faster on the comparison workshop because it should be a lot of the same stuff. So we're going to start with claim, clear and concise. Circe's actions were justified. Is it clear? Is it concise? Does it defend Circe? Absolutely yes. So I'm good with that. You take a look at paper number 2. Is that a clear and concise claim? Yep, it is. So let's go on to evidence. First question. We're saying that her actions are justified. So what I now need to know is, does the evidence show that? After sailing for a long while, Odysseus and his crew arrived on Circe's island. Circe is just a woman living on her lonesome with only her animals at her side. While Circe did turn Odysseus's men into pigs, she only did so because she was terrified. There was a sudden swarm of men outside her door who started calling to the singer, which does not end up well for ancient Greek women. Does that support the idea of her being justified? Overall, yes, it does. However, there is one sentence that has to come out because it's not about Circe's actions and it's not about Circe being justified. What sentence has to come out? Yeah, this is about Odysseus. It's not about Circe. You've got to embrace the delete key because information that is extraneous, that is irrelevant, that isn't necessary, it weakens your argument. You don't want to include more than you need to. So I want you to take a look at this evidence and you tell me, does it support the idea that she is attentive? Circe wants to keep Odysseus safe because she wants to marry him. And so killing the animals and cooking them into food was a way for her to keep Odysseus and his men safe. In chapter 10, the men visit Circe at her home and suddenly get attacked by mountain wolves and lions. Circe uses her sweet voice to tame animals and keep them away from Odysseus's men. Okay. Is she attentive? This I have a little bit of a problem with because she wants to keep him safe. Is that attentive? Yes. She wants to marry him. Kind of irrelevant because that's never going to happen. So don't bring up stuff that is not part of her being attentive. That's more her being delusional. So killing the animals and cooking them to food was a way for her to keep Odysseus and his men safe. Given that some of those animals were Odysseus's men, that's an interesting argument. They're safe because they've been eaten. Okay. In chapter 10, his men visit Circe at her home and suddenly get attacked by wolves and mountain lions. Circe uses her sweet voice to tame them and to protect them. Okay, so this is questionable. This is definitely attentive. So we've got a bit of a mixed bag here. And so that's a little bit problematic in terms of the evidence. But sometimes evidence that's iffy, you can save it with good commentary. So we'll come back. Next question. Are the quotes embedded? The men outside the door who started calling to the singer, that all sounds like it flows together. Circe fixed it and her drug fell from their limbs and they were men again, more youthful and taller than ever. That's a little long. But overall, I would say the quotes are okay. It's not great because you have a long one, but overall, yes. Here are the quotes embedded. No, I don't see any quote marks. You have to make sure that you have quotes from the story. Now, here's the interesting thing. Is this a quote? Because square brackets are only used when you are changing the grammar inside a quote, but you don't have quotes here. Now, does at one point the story talk about her sweet voice? Yes. So I suspect that this should be like this, but definitely we have a problem with the embedded quotes here. So next up, is it cited correctly? What do you think? Okay. You have evidence here, but the problem is, look at those two sentences. Only one is cited. This sentence is not, so that would count as plagiarism. So this sentence has evidence, it is cited. This sentence has evidence, it is cited. Here we're going into the comparison. After the comparison, we go into more evidence, which is odd. Okay. Especially because I don't need this to show that she feels like a mouse. In fact, that's not very mouse like. So I would actually delete that. Okay. So go down here. What do you think of the citation? Yeah. This is evidence, summarized evidence, but it's evidence. It has no citation on it. Oh, we hit enter at one point. This is evidence. It has no citation on it. And then this does have a citation. But remember, a citation only matches the sentence that it's touching. So the way it is right here, this sentence is cited. None of these are. So right now, adding those two words would make a big difference in the grade. Now, let's go take a look at the commentary. So, does it go back to the claim? And the claim is her actions are justified. Circe was like a mouse backed into a corner. Much like a trapped mouse, Circe did what she had to in order to protect herself. Circe has a right to her own protection and should not be judged for doing so. Circe was just a woman doing what she needed to protect herself and had fixed her mistake upon realizing. So, does it go back to her being justified? Yeah, she did what she needed to do to protect herself. So, absolutely, it does go back to the claim. Here, the claim is attentive. Does that go back to attentive? No. In fact, here it goes into that she's fierce. And if I look at this, that killing animals and cooking them was a way to keep him and his men safe. Well, maybe not, because the men aren't safe if they're being eaten. So killing the animals and cooking them into a food was a way to keep herself safe. In chapter 10, his men visit Circe at her home and suddenly get attacked by mountain wolves and lions. That Circe fights in an unusual way, because it is fighting, it's singing, but it's fighting. Circe uses her sweet voice to tame the animals and keep them away from Odysseus's men. Now, here's the trick. Circe is fierce and acts to protect herself. Now, I want you to take a look at something. Does this evidence show her being fierce to protect herself? Yes. Does this evidence show her being fierce to protect herself? Yes. Does this evidence show her being fierce to protect herself? Okay, maybe not so fierce, but it is to protect herself. The problem is sometimes if you're writing evidence and it just is not coming together, the problem is that your claim is wrong. You have to make sure that whatever you say you're going to prove, you prove it. And in this case, all of this evidence was not proving her being attentive. It was proving her kind of being, a tough gal, a tough cookie, and going out there and fighting for what she wanted. And so the minute the claim changed, the evidence changed. Now, how do I know that this is what the kid really meant? Because I'm looking at the commentary. Do we associate being a soldier with being attentive or being fierce and protective? Yeah, fierce and protective. So this commentary tells me that what the kid was really trying to prove is that she kicks butt and takes names. But you need to make sure your whole argument is driving in the same direction. You can't go get in your car, drive east and say we're going for attentive, and then expect evidence from the west to work. So it all has to be driving the same direction. Okay, so now that we have changed our claim, does it go back to the claim now? Yes. Now you have that match. Now the whole argument is trying to argue the same thing. Okay, so let's go back up here. Does it explain the evidence? So the evidence here is that she's turning men into pigs because she's terrified. There's a swarm of men outside the door who are calling for her, and this does not end well for women in the Greek world. So, do we have reference to those facts in our commentary? Protecting herself. Yes. She has a right to protection. So she is a woman doing what she needed to do. What did she need to do? Turn the men into pigs. The reference to women is a direct reference to women in the Greek world are in danger. So does the commentary here, does it connect to and explain the evidence? Yes. So how about here? Does this commentary, does it connect and explain the evidence? Yes, the connections are a little bit weak. Keeping him from harm, I could argue that that is the mountain wolves and lions. It's not as strong as up here where I've got multiple references to the facts. But yes, it does explain the evidence. So I absolutely would give points to that. Last, is this logical and does this appeal to the audience? So that image of a mouse being backed into a corner and being trapped, and that a mouse has to do what it has to do to protect itself. Does that connect with the audience? And like I said, it's going to connect with different people. So in the last Ed puzzle, I said, look, some people are going to say that's okay evidence or okay commentary. Some will say it's good commentary. Some will say it's great commentary. But you should be able to say, yeah, that connects. I see where they're coming from. So when you look at that commentary, is that an image that a reader can connect to, that a reader can understand, that would help a reader understand Circe being justified in her fear? Yeah, I would say yes. I would say overall, comparison paper number one was a great job. It just needed a couple of things deleted. Now, let's take a look at commentary number two. Does commentary number two help you see Circe the way this student sees Circe? Yes? Great. Then that is a good job. So what I want you guys to do is that you now have these 7 questions. I want you to look at comparison paper number 3. How does comparison paper number 3 do on each one of these elements? Is this a good paper? Okay, now that you've looked at comparison, what I want you to do is I want you to go back. Remember, I asked you to do a comparison practice before we did the Circe prompt. I want you to go back, look at your comparison practice, And I want you to see, does your comparison practice hit all of the elements of good writing? I also want you to take a look now at your Circe argument. Some of you have a little extra help because I did your paper for you on the screen, but I want everyone to go back and also look at their Circe argument. Do you need to change anything to make sure you have an awesome argument that really defends Circe?